everybody, to Integrate Yourself. I'm your host, Allison Pillow, and you can find me at pureenergypdx.com. Today, I am here with an amazing guest, Sara Egert. I hope I said that right. I don't even know if I said your last name right, Sara. Is that correct? Egert?
Egert.
Egert. Okay, thank you. Sara Egert. I should have asked you that in the beginning. Sara focuses her curiosity and enthusiasm on helping people improve their lives within themselves and outward while raising their energy and vibration in their bodies. Home work as well as their home and work environment. Sara educates her clients to observe and be conscious of their physical space at home or office and how it's a reflection of their current life and body and the subtle changes that can be made. Her transformational journey started as a student of the Western School of Feng Shui, completions of 200-hour yoga teacher training, elemental space clearing, medical intuition training, and breath worker, consciousness connected breath, as well as continuing education in all realms. Sara loves teaching well-being modalities within our body, yoga, breathwork, and meditation, and physical environments as with feng shui, because all complement each other and help bring everything back into balance in both our inner and external worlds. Sara lives in Portland, Oregon, and works with her clients virtually and in person and all around the world. Welcome, Sara, to the show. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm really excited about what we're going to talk about today, feng shui. And as you and I were just talking, I was explaining that I don't think many people know. I mean, we've all heard of feng shui, and not many people know what feng shui actually is and the intricacies within it, and really how it can change your external world. As I experienced with your work, you came to my house and you did some feng shui and helped me rearrange some things and made some suggestions on how I could make the space better and to flow. But it wasn't just for that. It was also so that I could kind of manifest the things I wanted to manifest in my life, so which was very, connected there. So thank you. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit, but I would love for you to share with my audience how you got started in all of this.
Yeah, thank you, Allison. This is awesome. It's such an honor and pleasure because I love Feng Shui so much. And I love telling the story how I got started. I've been in the telecom industry for many years in the corporate world. And it was a morning where a bunch of us girls were getting together and we went over to one of her townhome, actually condo in Chicago. And while we were in our condo, like looking around, I'm like, why does she have paint kind of like hanging from the ceiling? And I'm like, and then I went to the next room. I'm like, wait, there's sequins. Like, so I asked her, I'm like,
Oh,
why do you have sequins on your ceiling? And she's like, you're not supposed to see that. She's like, my mom's into feng shui and I have all of these other things. And so she started showing um, because she knew that they were there. There were intentions behind them. And she then proceeded to say that she had moved one of her pictures and hung it in her hallway and how her career just really was amplified and things started changing. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this? So I bought my first feng shui book and it was on the Eastern philosophy. So it's compass and it went off directional and I was so confused. And my friend had made it sound like it was so easy. So I'm like, what book are you talking about? And so I get the right name of it and I started incorporating some of it into my life at that time. And also at that moment, I was living in an apartment and everything I had placed in my apartment had a rhyme and reason, like
mm.
everything. And so when I was reading the book about how to kind of move things, I couldn't think elsewise because everything was placed there for a reason.
Oh, right.
So I just kind of took all the concepts and then it happenstance in a way. I had to move apartments because mine was being renovated. So literally I was moving to the same exact apartment floor plan, but it was a mirror. So I got to
Mm.
incorporate it all, like starting from a blank canvas.
Oh,
Because
wow.
it goes back to it's hard to create in a space when it's already filled. Like a wall is already
Yeah, that's
filled.
so true. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I
And
remember one thing that you said to me real quick, that brings to mind. You're like, just take everything off the wall, see how it feels, and then put whatever if you want to put the same thing up, that's fine, but put something up maybe different, right? And I was like, oh, I never thought about just taking everything off and just feeling how that feels to just start with a blank canvas. That's like, it makes so much sense actually.
yeah, it's and
Yeah.
sometimes it could be intimidating because it's like, wait, how do I create on a blank canvas? But
Yeah.
ideally, we have certain items within our home space or even in our office or even in a room that we love. So we just make that our central point. And how do we add things to it? Or it could be a rug or it could be a couch that we love, right? It's just one thing. And then we start creating around it. So
Right.
that's kind of how I got into it. And I ended up, things just started shifting in my life. And um, there's many, many more to that. You can always read my story on my website because otherwise I could talk about that for an hour. That's
Well, yeah, I mean, feel free to share whatever you'd like about it.
like,
But that's really cool though that you had that opportunity because how often do we get an opportunity to just like be in the same exact apartment and just like create what we wanted to in the other apartment? Just that's so crazy that you got to do that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it was nice because I mean, we like to control things or we like to have an idea of some sort. And it was a mirror. So it's like, okay, how can I do this? But kind of have, and also it was my intention behind it. So I was more conscious of what the certain areas were of the apartment. And so playing off that a little bit, um, Feng Shui means wind and water. So it's the seen and unseen.
Mm,
And so we see things like water and the unseen is a wind. So we know it's moving.
mhm,
And with Feng Shui, we talk about qi, which is the movement um, of energy in a home space or an office or anything. But if we were to reflect it in just a different language, prana is the air
right.
force that moves through us, right? It's a life
Mhm.
force that's moving through our bodies. So our homes have prana too. And so incorporating that aspect. And then also there's a lot of unseen energy. And somebody could say it's woo woo, but if we think about some of the items that we have in our home space or in our apartment, or it could be in a room, even in our car. Like, I mean, we can take this anywhere. There are certain things that may stick out that we're like, I don't know why I have that. I really don't like it, but I have it hanging on my wall because I want to fill that space.
Right.
And so those are items, or could be pictures, that there's a little bit of a story behind. And if we start kind
Yeah.
of just asking, like, well, why do you have it? And there's a story behind it, and we start digging in a little bit deeper. And sometimes what comes up is somebody from our past gave it to us, and that
Mm,
person in our past is no longer here. And that past could be a relative. So it had maybe a loving energy behind it as a gift, maybe, or it could be a past relationship of some sort. They were like, why do I even have this?
right.
Every time I look at this, I don't want to think about that person. But guess what? You're thinking about it every time you look at the picture. So take
Right.
it down. And that goes back to it's okay to have a blank canvas because we create it's there's a concept called the vortex, so or like a vacuum. And once we create space for something to come in, it will come, but we have to sometimes take things down or remove it.
Right. Yeah, so that creates the energy of that, like to make that change is what you're saying. I
Yeah.
hear you saying. Yeah, and I find this fascinating because I don't know what it was, but you really brought light to my situation in the way where I was like, yeah, I have these pictures on my wall that I bought at the thrift store, like when I first moved to Portland, and I don't know why they're still there. Why do I still have these? These are not even where I'm at anymore, like these old oil paintings, which were cool, but it's like it wasn't like I didn't even like take the time to really ask myself if I liked that anymore, or if it just was there and that was filling the space there and it wasn't even like a thing to think about. So, you know, and I think for me too, part of my process in the past has been to I'm like afraid to make any big changes or to take anything off the wall, but now at this point I'm like, let me just try it, see what it feels like, see what it looks like. I'm not going to lose anything, no big deal, it's not going to, nothing terrible is going to happen. So and it's very playful and much more fun. So I feel like you really helped me with that, just trying new things, and just being open to that.
Yeah. No, thank you again for sharing that story. I remember specifically that area. So, um, I studied Western school, and the Western school of Feng Shui goes off of form. So, actually, what's there? So, it doesn't go off the directional aspect, what I was referencing a little bit earlier, because directional is compass and it gets confusing. Because
Yeah.
I don't know about you, I don't know what way is which way, especially this day and
Terrible with
age.
directions.
Like, what? So, Western goes off of form, and we also go off the Bagua map. And the Bagua map is 9 guas, or nine like sections. Um, and typically it's a square, and we align that with your home space. Typically, it's your main level that you live on. Um, but also, homes have different levels. So we'll kind of look at it also, too, depending on what somebody wants to look at in their life, what they like to talk, like upgrade and shift. And I'm going to circle back to the area where those pictures were that you had. So the Bagua map has career area. It's also your helpful people. Like, who do you want to bring into your life that will help you? And in
Mm,
that helpful people is travel. Then you have children and creativity. Then it's relationships. So it's also love and marriage, but it's all relationships in our lives. And that's important in many different ways. The other is fame and reputation. So how people
right.
perceive us. Maybe, like, for instance, you're working on this podcast and you're with your book, like really building that up. And being in the energy of that. And we can do things in a home space or an office space to bring that up. And we can even talk about the pictures that are behind you right now that you shifted in.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and then the other is wealth and prosperity,
Hmm.
which all of us usually want some of that. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
health and family, and also self cultivation. So, self cultivation is like us talking about this, like
Mhm.
cultivating ourselves. And then in the center is balance. So, going back to the area where you had your pictures, um, and it's not that it's right or wrong. It's
Mhm.
just becoming aware of consciously, like, why do I have this? I don't
Right.
know. I like them. I like them a little bit now. Let me think about it. And those pictures were in your self cultivation and
Oh, that
knowledge.
makes sense.
And so, like, that was kind of like, it's a helpful reflection of, like, okay, that's, now that you're aware of it, that's how those pictures are there. And how do they support you in that area?
Yeah.
And maybe your story behind them is that, like, you feel like this person, or this, like, this piece of art, and it really grounds you and it makes you feel vibrant. Then guess what, we might want to move it to just another area. Might be fame and reputation, just to shift some
Mhm.
energy.
Right.
We don't have to
Yeah.
get rid of everything. We can shift it and move it, because everything is energy.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
love that.
that's
Oh my god.
yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I did feel quite a shift. It took me some time to integrate the changes. Like some of it required some painting and just moving around. And there's still some things that I need to do that I have on my list. But the shift that I did make in the house were pretty. I mean, it wasn't even I mean, I just felt better, in my own energy just by doing that. It just felt like in that space, I felt so much better. Like there was one also a hallway that you helped me with upstairs, and you were like, "I feel dizzy up here. I don't know what's going on." And I changed the picture arrangement, and then you were right. It felt much more like balanced and grounded in that hallway after I did that. I was like, "Wow, I just all I did was move some pictures around, that's it." But you explained why, and it was super cool. Like, so for example, I had this skylight that was bringing light down onto the wall, and you're like, "You need to ground that light." I think that's how you said it. And I put this like um uh, piece of art, like a weave. Someone weaved a like a little piece, and I put it right there, and I felt like it wasn't going to get faded. It wasn't a picture that could be, get faded by the sunlight. So it was perfect. And then actually the energy felt so different when I did that because I didn't have anything there before. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, no, I remember that too. I know it's and the thing that's what I love. It's little subtle changes. They don't
Yeah.
have to be big. And some recommendations I might mention are maybe paint, but it's something that you could do in the future. You don't have to do it. It's
Right.
usually because we like change to a degree, but sometimes we don't want it to happen really, really fast.
Yeah.
And also, anything that we're doing within our space is always on our like divine timing. Like,
Yes.
and also
Yes.
when people reach out to me for feng shui, it's because they're ready. Like,
Right.
they're ready for a change, they're ready for something new. Um, because what was working before really always isn't, and also like what can we do um to change? Because sometimes um we've done all we can. And it goes back, a lot of it's external. We're human. We like physical things.
Yeah.
Um and that's normal and that's okay. And not all of us can be minimalists especially at this moment in time, because we have to have so many things to support us
Yeah. Because we're all
with
in our
being
house.
so being so virtual in a way.
Yeah, seriously, like yeah, I never thought I was going to be spending so much time at home. I never would have guessed this at all. So it's great because I actually got you to do the feng shui right before I feel like all this happened. No, no, maybe it was at some point during, but it definitely helped because I think I had a sense that, oh my God, I got to shift some energy here if I'm going to be here for a while. So, oh my god. So I'd love to hear about some stories of some shifts you've made for people with the feng shui, and have you seen a lot of people's external environment change pretty quickly when they do that, or does anything come to mind there with that?
Yeah, so there's always a few stories, but I love when people are a little skeptical.
Ah,
and
yeah.
and it's a story. I was having lunch with a coworker. Well, actually, no, a client. It was kind of like a client situation, and they're like, "What is this feng shui about? Like, what is like?" And I'm like, "Well, what's going on?" Like, and you're like, they started just talking about a few things, and it had to do with work really it was work related for them, and they were kind of contemplating like going for a promotion, or and it was stuff like that. And depending on a house and or home space or apartment or whatever, when it aligns with the Bagua map, depending on where the door is, typically it can be in the career area. And I would say like, hey, tell me a little bit more about your front door. Do you have a picture of your house? Like type scenario.
Ah, yeah.
And that's one of the easiest places to really look at, because our front door, no matter if we use it or not, it
Hmm.
is the mouth of our life. The mouth is, so it is where the prana, the chi comes in and out. And so I always invite clients or anyone I talk to make sure that they at least open up their front door It's okay that you don't use it all the time. That can happen. But also make sure it's clean. Clean your
Mm,
windows, clean the handle. Also the doormat on the front. That's energy coming in. Like, how's that doormat serving you? If it's something that says go away because it's something kind of funny, like, I mean, that's the energy that's you're trying to invite into your home.
true.
Anyway, so there, I think it was a scenario that maybe one of the sides were a little bit stuck. It was one of those. It was two doors. They opened, but the one was a little bit stuck. And I said, "Hey, like, try to like get the other side unstuck. Like, if you have to sand it so it freely flows open and shut. Because again, if something's a little stuck, it's
Yeah.
going to be a little stuck in your life."
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, or
Yeah.
some doors could be a little squeaky, you know, like how
Yeah.
can you, like just oil them, right? Like they're like our bodies. Our bodies need to be oiled a little bit. So do doors or, um, and it was, he had made a change to his front door and it wasn't too long after that then a promotion had come into play, like it was
Wow.
something work related. I'm like, oh my gosh, you moved the stuff in your door.
That's
I have
amazing.
a client that I've been working with for many years, and she is now kind of transitioning into a place that they're looking at their third home
Oh, wow.
that I've been working with her on. So when I say third, like I worked with her on her first home, they sold that. They have their second home, they sold that, and then they're looking on their third home space. And so it's been such an honor to be part of the process on how things have, in a way, like progressed and manifested and built upon um, a lot of the inner work that she's doing within her
Hmm.
business and such. And I'm just like in awe. Like each time I'm like, oh my God, this is so awesome. And yeah. And it's one of those things like she may not believe in all of it, and we don't have to believe all of it. But
Yeah.
it's like when we're ready for it, and then we start noticing the little shifts and changes.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it feels
yeah.
good too. I mean,
Yes.
that's the one thing I noticed more than anything is just it just felt better, you know? Um, I mean, if anything, that's an improvement right there, right? It's so funny too. As you were talking, I recalled like remembering I had this like painting. I still have it, but I turned it another way. I turned it like a different way. It looked like rain. Remember that one? And you were like, huh, there's too much water over here. Like, too much water representation. And I was like, oh my God, that's so funny. We've had two like the bathrooms right above that dining area, and there's been two separate occasions, maybe more than that, maybe three, where it had overflowed and it leaked through that, like the ceiling there. A couple of different reasons for that, but so we finally had to get that fixed. But it's all fixed now. But then you were like, "You've got a lot of water over here. You need to change this." And I'm like, "Oh, I had no, it didn't even occur to me." So I changed just because it looked like rain. It's a cool painting. I will eventually change it to something else. I just don't know what yet. I'm kind of working on that right now, but I turned it a different way, and now it doesn't look like rain anymore. It looks a little bit more like, I don't know, star beams I don't know, something different. It's not the same. So um yeah, so it's even just turning that picture the other way and just kind of messing with that space a little bit and changing it around was pretty eye-opening too.
Yeah. And so with feng shui, there's elements. So that like that's one. Um, and I love working with clients on it, but it's almost like it's a follow up because it's so overwhelming when we first
Mm,
start talking about feng shui or moving the little things. But and that's why I can see little things or I might ask questions just intuitively. And it's not a place of judgment, but just seeing like there's something else there. And the elements help balance things in our lives. And certain areas might have more of a water element or it might be more metal. There's also wood, fire, and earth. And so in the feng shui of the Western school, it's the five elements. And certain areas or the guas represent a certain element. So if you really want to like emphasize, for instance, wealth and prosperity is really embracing like the rich royal colors, what and whatever makes you feel rich and royal. But
Hmm.
that also is like deep purples and reds, and it's different colors of that. It's like what it represents to you, because somebody may say like, I don't like reds, like I don't like them. It's like, okay, like what color is in that realm that really supports you, that you love, that is kind of fiery? It can also be shapes.
Oh,
So
right.
element, like, so from a Feng Shui perspective, so we were proud when we were looking at your space, it was maybe the colors, the color on the wall, the imagery,
Yeah.
and it's a combination of looking at that and what how can maybe bring more groundedness into it, so it's not so watery or it's not so metally and rigid. And
Hmm.
it's not always like a healthy balance to have a really strong element in every area, and they
Okay.
also like feed off of each other, and they also pull from each other in a way, and that's diving a little bit deeper. But
That's
like
cool.
fame and reputation, um that is like a fiery color. It could be a shape of like a
Oh,
fire.
interesting. Okay.
And then also people, animals, anything that's been alive essentially in a picture is a fire element.
Oh, really?
So looking at that.
You said animals or people? Okay.
Yeah, about yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you were like in a if you're looking at something that has like a, let's say, a tiger rug or a cheetah rug,
Oh, okay.
and
Yeah.
that's a fire element. So let's just say the
Huh.
color was orange and black or white and black or something. And some of you will be like, well, that's not really fire, but it represents an animal.
Oh, right.
So that
Right.
so it might have a little bit more yin property to it because of the color, and that's what we see, but energetically it has definitely some undertones of a fire element.
Oh, cool. I did not know that. That's really neat. I like that.
Yeah.
Um, Very cool. I love it. Um, I had a question because you and I talked about this, but I don't know if you want to talk about this on the show or not.
Sure.
About entities, maybe coming across entities every once in a while, and I don't know if you want to bring that up or not. But I thought that was interesting. I was like, I don't want to scare people because but um, we are. I mean, you and I are in Portland, and so there that is a thing, right? So there are sometimes things hanging around, but what is your take on that and how people, I don't know, should be aware of that kind of thing or not be aware, or how do you know if there's something that's doesn't feel right that might be beyond things that you're doing?
I'm laughing at some of this because um sometimes it's a I may pick up on things. So to just kind of talk a little bit about this, I also um work with spaces intuitively. So I study with um Denise Lynn, and it's energetic space clearing. So that was also part of
Right.
like when I got into feng shui, realizing I was walking into spaces and I was reading the energy and other things were coming up. And when I say other things, it was just um the space, like what certain areas felt good, or like maybe how can we shift a little bit more of this and what can I do. And so I also incorporate that aspect into feng shui. Sometimes, typically, I do remote sessions, and that is it's part of feng shui, but it can be separate. Like I have
Hmm.
clients that I just do energetic space clearings, like it's kind of like housekeeping. Like they own a business and like they're ready for something new. Okay, like let's get rid of that and such. So a lot of times I'll tap into the energy of the home, the space, the office, and sometimes it goes into the land in
Mm.
which that that space is sitting on, and like kind of like being in the presence of that land and how it supports them, and also maybe working with the energy of it, saying they're here, like, thank you for supporting them.
Oh, okay.
um and every client is a little bit different, and every place and space is a little bit different. I have been, or I in different places where um there definitely is a shift in the energy. It could be a presence of some sort. Um and working with the client on different techniques that they may work on. Do they feel it? Do they notice it? And um and maybe there's like little things that they can do, I can help advise them on. So far, knock on wood, and that's why I'm nervous that you even asked me this, because recently it's come up a little bit more,
Oh, yeah.
and it's like, all right, I know that I can support to a certain degree, and then who else can I advise my clients to work with? And a
Mhm.
lot of times people know or they don't know, like, and it may not bother them.
Right.
Um, Especially like, let's say Portland's older.
Mhm.
It's an older city. Um, and the other day I was with a friend. They were showing me they have a building and they rent out spaces, apartment building. And I wanted to see it, and they're showing me, and I was like, oh my gosh, do they know that somebody walked me up the stairs, and I don't, like, there's
Wow.
times like
Yeah.
I don't, like, I can't always share that because they might not embrace it, or like know that it might affect them. But I do have to say that there might be some of that energetically happening, and that's why no one's moved in yet.
Right. That is, oh my God. And especially in an apartment building, because
Yeah.
so many people go through that, you know? Oh my gosh.
And it
Yeah.
changes and it shifts, and
Yeah.
there's little things that you can do and techniques, and I don't want to like scare people, like, but
Yeah.
I mean, but absolutely it happens.
Yeah.
Let me
I know.
see.
I asked you, I was like, do you see any entities in here? I never really felt
Wait,
any in
did
my
you
house,
ask
but
me that?
I did.
Oh,
Yeah. And
you
you
did.
said,
Okay.
no, no,
No, no,
nothing's
no,
here.
I didn't. No. There are some that I've like, and and I've mentioned it. Like, I've been in homes. I'm like, hey, do you notice anything? And I've had a scenario where somebody's like, what are you talking about? And then they became a little scared. I'm like, you haven't noticed. It's okay. Like,
Yeah.
let me, when I sit in the space clearing, let me see what comes up, because maybe it's just showing up a little bit. Let's see, like, is it tied to the land?
Right.
Right? Is it tied, because a land
Yeah.
has history in that.
Yes. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I first, actually, the first house we moved in to in Portland was a rental, and it was a townhouse. It was a fairly new townhouse development that had actually been built on top of an old asylum, like a mental hospital. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't know, until my kids started seeing these kind of entities. They were in the room. And I was like, oh my God. And then one time, I saw kind of what they were describing in my dream one night, and I was like, "Oh my god, we gotta clear this house because there's some of this, left over from this, um, you know, this hospital, mental hospital that we were that they built this on." Builders don't think about that when they they just think it's a piece of land. Let's just build right on top of it. But, yeah, I didn't, and I was like, yeah, my friend had come in, he was like, "Oh my god, let me help you clear this."
Oh, okay. All right, good. Okay. I couldn't remember,
But
like, if you had.
that was not the one that we live in now. That was,
No.
another one that we rented for a couple of years, and then we just, when we bought something, we moved out of there and bought a house. But, yeah, I was just like, it freaked me out a little bit to be, that my kids started, and they were young, so they're not really, they don't know. To them, it feels, just as real as anything. But, yeah, it is interesting though. I guess it's just kind of like remnants of, from what I've heard it described as, like, remnants of the energy that was kind of left behind there, right? In some ways. And so, yeah.
Yeah. And some will say sometimes it trickles around like with you. Sometimes it
Mhm.
attaches to certain people, or
Oh,
certain
right.
situations, or like it's yeah, because if everything's energy, um, and you could be an innocent bystander in a
Yeah.
way, and
Yeah.
you're like
Yeah,
but
you don't
there's people that work with some of that, and that's not like
yeah. But
I
that's
I was
kind of outside your yeah, your wheelhouse a little bit because you don't
Yeah, I mean,
I
I
feel
work
like
with the
yeah.
energy of the home in the
Yeah,
sense when
yeah.
something does come up, typically we're like working on clearing with it. We're like communicating to a degree of like they're both there to support each other, and there's other techniques to
Yeah.
do. But
That's cool.
I haven't
Yeah.
walked into a completely haunted house. Like now I'm scared to even talk about it
Yeah.
because I then need to work with somebody to reference the
Yeah.
yeah.
You do you have somebody that you do work with when you get those when you have to refer out for something like that?
It is because it's come up a lot, I'm going to have to start working with somebody. Yes. And
Okay,
sending out.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that might
Thanks,
be a good
Allison.
idea.
You're really bringing this up for me.
Well, it's just energy like you say. And so I mean, I've started just to learn a lot more. Oh, go ahead. Yeah. Oh, you can't hear me? Oh. You cannot hear
I
me?
can't hear.
Oh,
Oh.
can you hear me now? No?
Oh, wait. No, wait. Oh, talk now.
Hello?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay. Okay.
I think it was my internet. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay.
I started seeing internet unstable. Okay. All
There's
right.
some energy there that
You see what happened?
So, yeah, no, I just think that like
Thanks a lot.
well, I think, also the more that and you're good about this, you do your breath, you're into the breath work, you help people with that as well as, aligning your energy and clearing your energy too. You have some great also suggestions for clearing your space in your home with sound healing. Like there's I love the stuff that you send in your newsletter on Spotify that I use those all the time just to clear the energy in my house. So it's like it's kind of like what you would normally used to do like with sage but with sound. So the sound really clears the energy out of all the negativity out of it. So that to me feels like a really great solution. But also doing that with your body too. So as well as the space in your house, we're doing that through meditation. We're doing it through I do it through a guided meditation where I bring in the light and clear out all the chakras. I ground myself. I expand my energy out and fill it in with light. And so a simple meditation like that just like you would do, with your room, kind of bringing the light there too. I think is great for not having to worry about dealing with the negative stuff all the time. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. And like as you said, it's like within, and like it's how we do it within our bodies and then also in our home space. And I like so Spotify, if you go to my website, I do have the Spotify that playlist on there. Um and it's high vibrational music
I
that you might
love
like
it.
some of it, and you can always shift it around. And another thing with the technology that we have these days is like on our TVs we can have YouTube. There's YouTube channels that are like meditation music that are high
Yeah.
vibrational. Like it's have that playing when you leave the house and then you come back in just to see how it feels different.
Oh, I love that. I do
Um,
that so much more now. I learned that from you.
oh,
Yeah.
thanks. Oh, good. I do it like all the time. I'm like, okay, I
Yeah.
want to walk in my place and feel like it different,
Mhm.
and like that stuff you can't make up. You just notice how it feels different.
Yeah.
I want to talk about one thing that comes
Yeah.
up with feng shui. Like there's always when people hear of feng shui, they're like, oh, it's the stairs, and you shouldn't have
Oh,
a toilet in your wealth and prosperity, um
I have
and
one.
there's all these type of things. And
Yeah.
we can there are little things that we can do to shift that. Like
Mhm.
we're not all moving our toilets out of our wealth and prosperity. Like it's not going to happen, right? Like,
Right.
so what little things can we do? And one being making sure that the toilet seat's down, you know,
Oh, yeah.
and that's something. The stairs, it's a little. You can put things, and every scenario is different. That's the whole thing. There's a generalization, but
Mhm.
like sometimes there's stairs that have to be in front of the door, and then
All
being in that
right.
space, how looking up or down, like what little things can you alter? Where does your eyes go? Like, are they going to a picture? Like, are you
Yeah.
conscious of some like a mirror? Can the mirror help shift that energy up? um and so that those are things like, and also like somebody might say, oh, my front door has to be in this direction. Like, again, like how do we make it more simple? Does it feel good when you open up the front door and you look out? What do you see? You know,
Right.
like there's so many different aspects, and that's why it's so helpful to work with somebody that does feng shui, because you can work through it and you can talk through it. Because everyone is a little bit different, every space is a little bit different. But going back to the bathroom, like a wealth and prosperity, and I want to talk about sinks a
Okay.
little bit. I don't know how, and drains. So we, I like to say as humans, because we're normal, like sometimes we know that we have a clogged drain, and guess what? We don't want to, like, there's going to be hair in there or whatever, right? Or
Right.
it's stopped, or like it's stuck, and there's a like a that the flow of the water to drain is really slow, so we know it's clogged. So energetically, we know that we have clogged energy. We just do, in a
Oh,
drain. So that could be
yeah.
your sink, um, in your kitchen, that could be any of your bathrooms, right? Any sink at all. So if you know that you have something and it's not working, and you're like, I'll get to it, I'll get to it, I'll get to it. And you know that it's like, let's say broken. I like to say it's just not working, like, but if it is, like, you know that subconsciously, and that goes back to that's the unseen energy. And a lot of times
Oh,
when we have
yeah.
certain areas of our home where we feel that a lot of things are like, let's say broken or not working, that's energy in the guas of our life. And if we
Ah.
start looking at things of like, why are things not working in my life? All right, let's look at like what's not working.
Oh,
As an
wow.
example, maybe sometimes we still have VCRs. Are we using the VCRs?
Yeah.
Oh, the VCR has been broken, but I still have it there. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
you
I
know,
noticed my dad used to do that a lot, actually. I was like, why are you waiting so long to fix this little thing? Like it would take him forever to just really just fix it. We would just be with it forever. And I'm like, I always thought about that. Like, just it feels to me like it'd be easier for you just to fix this right now. But
and some,
yeah, it was really interesting. And he always was really like, I can see that now, the correlation with his life and that. Yeah, that makes actually a lot of sense to me. No offense against my dad, it just I
no.
learned from that. And definitely that was one thing I remember I was like, why are you making it so hard on yourself? you know? Yeah, it was real interesting.
And so with that said, sometimes we have clutter in
Mhm.
drawers, and a lot of people, when they hear about feng shui, oh, I need to get rid of the clutter. I need to get rid of all the clutter before I have you come over to look at everything. Well, that means you're shifting things. And I want to see things as they are. And we're, again, this goes back to, we're human. It's normal. We have clutter. Guess what? I have clutter,
Yeah.
you know? And a lot of times it's overwhelming if we think about cleaning out a closet because there's so much clutter there. So start with a drawer, like a
Mhm.
drawer in your bathroom, one drawer,
Yeah.
and like one drawer in your kitchen. You know, it doesn't have to be the whole kitchen. And you know what? Maybe it'll start off with the one drawer and evolve, but you'll notice just the gratification of how good it feels just to throw out, let's say, the old ketchup packages, right? That are in that drawer, or
Yeah.
like old makeup that, like, wait, why have I had this for 5 years, right? Like,
Right. Yes.
and that
Yes.
goes back to that's energy. And every time we look at it or we ignore it, let's say, and then we go to
Mhm.
look, oh my gosh, why do I have this? um again, it could be a ketchup package in the kitchen or mustard, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I need to get rid of this." Like, that's
Yeah.
like the unseen energy that's there. That's kind of like the life force is gone out of it.
Right.
Um,
That makes so much sense.
and that's
Yeah.
just clutter. Like, I mean, it's we're sometimes attached to things how they used to be and how we would like them to work. And that happens. That's part of our journey. But like really being with that, like when we look at our space and we have a lot of things in maybe like in reference to what your dad may have said, like that kind of stuff. But as technology is like evolving and change, a lot of times we don't need the VCR. Like, can we donate it? Like
Mhm.
the old computers in our space,
Right.
how can we like take that to the right recycling disposal, like and
Yeah.
clean it up. So in a way we're energetically cleaning up our files. We're filing our life in like a way, and then we're also getting rid of it because it doesn't serve us anymore. So
Yeah. I love that. I give everything a timeline as far as how long I'll keep it now. If it's been there for more than for a year, it's gone. Like, yeah, and I haven't used it or looked at it or whatever. But I think that yeah, that's so it's so practical but yet so powerful for moving energy. I always tell people that you can't really bring new opportunities and energy in unless you get rid of the old stuff, the old stuff you're hanging on to. You can't hang on to all of it. Especially like the best metaphor for that is your closet. Like if your closet's stuffed with clothes and you're trying to stuff more clothes in it, you're eventually going to run out of space, right? So we have to let go of all the old stuff. And that was yeah, like I said earlier, that was so eye-opening when you just gave me such a different perspective of letting go of stuff. Like even like I don't know why, but for some reason maybe it was because of how I grew up, but I just look at the stuff on my wall as so static, just like it's there and it's going to be there for a long time. And I don't know, if it's ever going to change, but I don't have to look at it like that. I could look at it like the art of my life, and I could just change it whenever I feel inspired to change it. And so that's more of what I feel now is that if I have something up there, it doesn't have to be in that space forever. And it doesn't have to, I can always put something else up there too. And I know that might sound weird to some people, but for me, um, I don't know, this the house I grew up in, that's just how it was. Like everything was there forever, the same way. No, nothing really ever changed. And I was just so that's how I learned decor. Interior design. So, yeah, so looking at it in a more dynamic, way, I think just like the energy that we use in our bodies and, in our life, things change, like, all the time, and so you should probably reflect that in your environment, your living environment too.
yeah.
Yeah.
No. I know. I like especially now um there's so much going on. Even though we feel a little stagnant, it's kind of like, but yet it's like there's so much change going on. It's kind of, but it's like, how is it supporting us? And I don't know about you, but some days I'm like, I need more change
Yeah.
because it's becoming too stagnant in here. So what can I do?
Yeah, it is like that. I feel like that too. I've done a lot of things to the house and making a lot of changes, and we've just been, I feel like really working on the house ever since all this kind of started. So just one project after the other.
And have they been small projects or like larger or?
Some smaller, some larger. Yeah. So the largest project we have taken on are the bathrooms. We redid the bathroom upstairs, um, and then we are doing we're adding a bathroom downstairs, and then we put a gym in the garage, and let's see, what else did we do? Yeah, so it's a process. Like and my oldest lives downstairs, and he's going to be moving out at some point soon, like, and so then we can transition that space as well. And so yeah, we're going through but you've been in my house. There's a limited amount of space, and so we have to use it very wisely. And that was actually by design because you and I both have lived in Atlanta, and you've seen the houses out there. And it was like I had a big house at one time and there's a lot of upkeep, there's a lot of space to I felt like I was always managing stuff at one point in my life, and I was like, "I really don't wanna be doing this anymore." And so then I decided to get a house that was gonna be, a certain amount of square feet that I could manage really well and really, maximize all the space, and so that's why we bought this. But with that, you have to get rid of things pretty regularly, I've noticed, it just there's just no room for things to pile up. So, and that's another great thing about having a smaller house too. But yeah, but it has been I've been painting and shifting things and, now I'm working on the back deck, like that's my fame and reputation.
Reputation. And did you do something in your wall in the kitchen?
Yeah, I painted it that, like, kind of peachy, kind of rose color. I guess it's more of a rose, but
Yeah.
yeah, so it's really cool because, where we live, we have a beautiful view of Mount Hood, and then you've got, like, in the so we can see it out our back window where the kitchen is and everything, which is super cool, and but I guess it's more summer, springtime. We have these beautiful sunset at the end of the day, which kind of is similar to what that picture is behind me a little bit, but it's more pink hues and like blues. And so it's really interesting because that wall in the kitchen matches the sunset perfectly when we have those days,
Oh.
and I'm like, "This couldn't be more perfect." Like, oh my god, it's just so beautiful to look at, like how it all kind of fits together. So, it was a really good call for you to suggest that for me as well. I really have been enjoying that.
Wow, that is like, and that was just a small thing that we are talking about for fame and reputation because you're working on your book and like you're on your
Yeah.
podcast and such, and like, and that how to build that up and how you're tying it into like the beauty of like Mother Nature and like that aspect of it too. So that's
Yeah.
so cool. So if
It's
I'm
great.
gonna ask you, like, has anything shifted like
Oh my
within
god,
that
everything has
realm?
shifted.
Okay.
So many
Okay.
things, so many things. I mean, I finished my book, and we're in the stages of editing and formatting and going through I'm learning how to do a proposal to a publisher and all of these things, and so, we're in that part, so yeah, and then I can I'm also working with some people who are helping me become a better public speaker, which is really great. I want to work on those storytelling skills. So I am just loving life right now because I'm doing everything I really want to be doing. My family's great. My business is great. I feel like, um, yeah, I just feel very aligned right now with what I want to do, and I think that that changing the environment definitely helped, especially, like, since now my business is in my house, so, I mean, everything I do now is in my house, basically, so I might as well make it nice, and enjoyable, and so,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
and then I'm really excited about the summertime, being able to get out on that back deck, and we've got a fire pit back there now and all that, so
That is so, and then with the fire pit, you're adding more fire,
that's what
which
I
is
thought. When
I
you said that, I
know.
was like, "Oh, that's perfect."
I know, a lot of
Yeah.
people, because we're at home and it's cold out here in Portland and we can't go
Yeah.
anywhere. Like the fire pits, and how I was over at a friend's just this past weekend or 2 weekends ago, and she has one out on her deck, her front porch, I should say. And I'm like, hey, just so you know, you now have two fire elements in your self cultivation and knowledge. And in the case of her, she has started taking so self cultivation is like what we're cultivating within ourselves. It can mean so many different things. Um, and she more recently started taking, I think, horseback riding lessons or
Oh,
something too.
cool.
Like, and
Yeah.
it was there. I mean, there's other stuff because in this world of this and what you're doing, like there's a lot of self cultivating, like that shows up.
Yes.
And a lot of times it's a little bit or like a lot is going on. And that was so cool to like see. I'm like, oh, I wonder if like a lot of it's tied together. Sometimes we see it, or
Mhm.
as we'll wait like about 3 months and we're like, oh my gosh, it wasn't till after I made these changes that
Yeah.
really this stuff started really flowing and I'm able to notice it.
Oh,
But
I
yeah,
definitely felt that way, and yeah, I feel like I am being more recognized for my craft and what I'm really good at and what I love to do actually even more. So, and yeah, so that feels really good. I think that's definitely been amplified this past year. So,
yeah,
um, yeah, so thank you, Sarah.
yeah,
Thank you
no,
so
thank
much.
you.
Thank you for coming on and sharing all
Yeah.
this valuable wisdom for people. This was so much fun. I hope everybody gets uh just so many great ideas from this podcast, and I would love it, of course, if they contacted you and worked with you as well, because you're amazing. I highly recommend. Where can they find you, Sarah, and how can they work with you as well?
Sure. And I think you'll add it into the show notes too,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah.
So it's Sarah, SARA, and it's Egert, EGERT.com. And all of my social links are on my website. And I have Instagram and Facebook. Again, it's all there. And I'll have upcoming events. At this moment in time, I don't have anything on to scheduled. So I do breath work. As you had mentioned, I hold breath work circles. That is phenomenal work. And when I first got into it, I was getting all the hits from Feng Shui of like, oh, what additional things can I do within my home to amplify certain areas? And
Yeah.
so I will occasionally have a breath, I'm sorry, a Feng Shui class, but typically I work with my clients one on one. It's the best
Yeah.
way. It
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah,
Because
because
otherwise,
everybody's so individual, right? Yeah.
yes. And it's like when they're ready, that's when they're ready. So that's where you can find me. And it's been an honor and pleasure.
Oh, thank
I
you. It's
know.
been
Thank
wonderful to
you.
see you again. We need to connect again soon in person.
I know.
Yeah. All right, Sarah, thank
All right.
you.
Thanks, Allison.
Yeah.
All right.